Come in.
Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Rowan.
Rowan.
Yeah, hi.
Okay, come and have a seat here. And you can face me. The audience aren't really an audience. They're here just to watch me, to monitor me, and to learn a bit about how to give a first session. So thanks so much for coming.
Sure.
What reasons have brought you to your first Alexander lesson? What interests you about what we do?
So I'm a classical musician, so I spend a lot of time playing my instrument in a fairly unnatural position.
Yes.
Sitting down in rehearsals, and also I have to look after my body when I'm playing to make sure there's not that much tension, and that I'm breathing properly, and that I'm sitting up in the right way that won't cause any long-term distress to my body, I think.
Yeah. That's a good reason. It's very popular for musicians to use Alexander for performance-related issues. Have you got anything that does bother you already?
I think just sometimes there's a bit of tension in my shoulders and in my back, and also because I hold my instrument here, I have a bit of pressure.
Yes.
Which goes down my thumb along my arm sometimes.
Yes.
So if I'm playing for too long, I have to be really careful that I won't, I've got a lot of friends who've got RSI from holding their instrument like this.
Yeah.
But it's not so bad with me. Right.
Okay. Anything else that bothers, that is uncomfortable, even generally not necessarily related to playing an instrument?
No, I think generally fine.
Okay.
Sometimes some lower back pain if I haven't done any exercise.
Yeah. Okay. And what do you know about the technique so far from the music arena or from anybody else?
I know about sitting bones, I think.
Yes.
And not much else.
That's great. In that case, it's good to start from scratch so you haven't got too many preconceived ideas. I'll be able to set the stage for you. If you have any questions while we're working, feel free to ask me.
Sure.
And the main principle is that we'll carry on all through our first session is that you can't get anything wrong at all. Okay. You're just going to be guided. And I can do wrong things and the students can monitor me and they'll learn about how not to do things as well as how to do things.
Sure.
But I'm going to guide you and move you and I'll instruct you in the ways that I want you to perform certain simple everyday movements, like sitting and standing and maybe moving onto your toes, and I'll ask you when to do them.
Sure.
And at the same time, I'll use my hands to guide you.
Sure.
And as I said, there's nothing you can get wrong in any of this. You're coming in with whatever you are, and you can't fail. All right? So hopefully we'll have an interesting session. We'll work for about 30, 40 minutes or so, which will include sitting and standing moving work, and there'll be some time to work on the table as well. Okay, so before we go into the real session, any questions to ask before we begin? No? Good. All right. So you stand up, and I think probably for today you'll have a view of the trees and the tent. I'll move this away. And yeah, we'll have you, looking out of the window and your feet a little bit wider apart for now, and stand in front of the stool. So you're going to be sitting, a bit closer to it. So you'll be sitting down in a minute. You'll be actually sitting in it, and I'll be moving you before you sit in it. Okay. And the first thing I do is I move your head. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes we'll just work in silence as I'm doing my thing. I'm going to move an arm, and when I lift it, you can give me all the weight of the arm so that when I drop it, it just falls with gravity. Mm-hmm. And if you get any strange sensations or easy sensations or difficult sensations, you can feel free to let me know. So you might sense that my hands aren't doing anything in particular. They're not correcting you, they're just going to move you. And sometimes they might just touch your shoulders, but not to correct them, because there's nothing to correct. And as you're standing there right now, you can choose to be a little soft behind the knees so that they don't have to be overly straight. That's exactly it. Okay, and then it's going to get a bit more complicated. I'm going to be asking you in a second to get yourself into the stool.
Okay.
And the difference will be that under normal circumstances, you just get yourself into the stool. In this game, you're going to get yourself into a stool with my hands guiding you, and there may be some sort of difference that we'll explore. Okay, so right now, you can take the hips back and then just bend the knees until you reach the stool, and then stop there for a while. And I'll take you backwards. So sometimes I'll ask you to do a certain movement, and other times I'll do the movement for you. I'll hopefully make it clear which one it is. Right now I'm going to be the mover that moves you forwards, and then I stop you there. And now I'm going to move you forwards. And I'm going to move you backwards. And again, I'm going to move you forwards and then stop there. And now I'm going to move you until you're over your feet. So at this point, without you moving your feet necessarily, you could move them, but you don't have to. I'm going to move you till you're at the point over your feet where you could stand. But right now you don't have to stand, so you're not getting ready for a big rush. And instead of you standing, I'm going to take you back again. So I've taken you off that sort of preparation thing where you get ready to stand, which creates a different tensional pattern in your body. So I'm going to move you again to the point where you could stand. And you can see you're not putting the brakes on, you're not getting ready. And now you can slowly stand up, including your heels. Up you come. Yep. And then you slowly bend the knees. Great stuff. And then heels. And you bend the knees. And then heels. And bend the knees. We're going to repeat this a few times. And heels. And heels. And bend the knees. And heels. And then bend the knees. And heels. And knees. Yes, a few more times. How are your legs coping with this?
Yeah.
Do you feel you're getting a workout in your quads? They're okay. Up you come again. Hips back and bend the knees. Heels and bend the knees. And then stop there. And here's the same thing, I've got the weight of the arm. So if I let go, it will just, of course, fall with gravity. And the same thing here, I've got this arm. So this isn't like, right now, it's not like holding a clarinet where you have to use your own muscles to hold up the clarinet. Right now I'm doing the movement for you. And I'm doing the lifting for you, so you're not exerting any demand on anything around here to hold your clarinet. I'm doing all the moving for you. What do you like when you have to play for an audition or a rehearsal? Or,
How I sit, you mean?
yeah, in general, do you have anxiety in performance stuff?
Yeah,
or
sometimes, yeah.
What's that like?
Normally it's like, makes my breathing quite high in
Yeah.
the body. Or sometimes I get a bit shaky in the hands.
So shaky and the breath. What about the body? Does it go more tense or more floppy?
More tense, definitely.
Where in particular?
I think in my chest.
Right.
It kind of feels like everything's a bit higher.
Yeah, yes.
Rather than grounded.
Yes. So with anxiety, you might pull up with a certain performance state.
Yeah.
Yes. And then when you relax, you feel all that starts to melt again.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Okay. Let me take you further forwards and then stop. Moving you forwards again to the point where you could stand, but you can see you don't have to stand at this point. You can probably sense that you're not getting ready for anything. Right now I'm the mover. I'm moving you forwards until you're over your heels, and then wait there. And I'm using my hands here to stop you going for it, to stop you jumping out of your skin, to stop you snatching at it. Stay gently back with me here. Fall backwards gently. Backwards, another, that's it. Even more backwards, yes. So stay backwards against me, don't leave my hands. At the same time as staying backwards, you can stand up with the heels. Yeah. That's it. What's it like to stand like that? What feels maybe different? I'll ask you these strange questions that may be a contrast to your everyday.
I'm not sure.
Then leave the question for a little while. Bend the knees, because there's no right answer at the moment. Then stand up with the heels, and then bend the knees. That's fine, and then stand up with the heels. And then heels, and then bend the knees. And heels, and bend the knees. And heels, and bend the knees. That's fine, and bend the knees. Heels. What do you sense is happening in your neck and spine, or your neck and your back, as you're coming in and out of the stool?
Feels kind of longer.
Longer, that's an interesting word. Longer, yes. So your neck and your spine, by the way, of course, you know that the neck is part of the spine, is staying longer in the movement of sitting and standing rather than getting shorter in sitting and standing. Yeah. So that would be one barometer, it would be one indication, this quality of longness without effort and strain. It would be one indication that you're doing fine, that things are going quite well for you in playing. If you weren't in such a good condition, you'd be shortening or freaking out and compressing. So this long quality is a sign that things are going pretty nicely for you. What else, as well as the longness, do you experience in the quality of the movement? And then stand up again, and then bend the knees again. There's that openness of the spine, the openness of the back and the neck.
Yeah.
What else?
Feels quite free.
Free, yeah. So long and free. That's So that's a good combination. It's not long, just like long, but not very free.
Yeah.
It's free and long. You've got two things together now, haven't you? Free and long. Yeah. So free without long could be floppy free. That's what people think is free. Just be free. That wouldn't be very helpful. Long without the free wouldn't be very helpful. So you've got a combination of two things already.
Yeah.
And now go on to the tip of your toes, and then down to the heels. Now I'm going to ask you a really difficult question. What is the quality of your mind or brain as you've got this long and free thing?
Quite clear.
Clear, yeah. So long, free, clear. As opposed to what would happen if you weren't in such a good state?
Be a bit foggy.
Foggy, yeah. Yeah, people are talking a lot about brain fog these days, and all the remedies they've got to find for brain fog. It seems like a very common complaint. So clear is important. Yeah, anything else in the brain as well as clear in terms of quality? And that's it. And then stand again. And then bend the knees.
Engaged.
Engaged, yeah. You're here. You're present. You're present. Yes, you're present. Engaged. Rather than what would be if you weren't. Where would you be? Distracted, mind wandering. Yeah, yes. And heels. That's it. And bend the knees. And that's the point. It's not an effortful engagement, is it? It's not, I'm going to be engaged. You just find yourself engaged because you're finding yourself being able to pay attention.
Yeah.
So that's the real meaning of mindfulness.
Yeah.
Mindfulness isn't, oh, I'm going to try and be mindful, which is anything but mindful. It's quite a horrific concentration of effort. But when you find yourself engaged, that's a very different story. And of course, when you play or perform, you'd want to be engaged in your performance, wouldn't you? Rather than be totally mind-wandering and unengaged. People would probably... Do you think they'd feel the difference in your playing if you were totally unengaged?
Yeah, completely.
So I'm not a musician. How would you describe what they might pick up if you were totally unengaged or freaking out or so on and so on?
I think it's just like an energy in the room.
An energy in the room, yes, yes.
Maybe they themselves wouldn't be as engaged.
Ah, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, you wouldn't be engaging them.
Yeah.
So that's one of the principles of teaching, that actually there is an energy in the room that gets picked up, it's catching, it's infectious. So my energy is picked up by you, your energy is picked up by me, your performance is picked up by the audience, and so on.
Yeah.
That we seem to influence each other on this energetic level.
Yeah.
And that's very much part of the technique. Let me take you further forwards and stop. We'll move you forwards again and hold it there, stop. So nothing's happening here. You can feel how the back and the areas where you probably get stiff in the back are not engaging in the other sense of the word of engaging. They're not getting involved.
Yeah.
So I'll move you back again, and then I'll move you forwards and stop and wait. Now gently come back to the idea of staying back against my hands. Yes, do you feel that little pressure against my hands?
Yeah.
What's it preventing you doing, this gentle pressure against my hands?
Flying backwards or forwards.
Exactly, flying, jumping, jerking, efforting. You're just staying here, aren't you? Staying in this mindful engagement.
Yeah.
But you're not jumping out of your skin. And can you stay not jumping out of your skin is what my job is. Can I help you stay without jumping, without pushing and pulling, at the same time as you stand up with your heels? So stand up with the heels, yes. And then bend the knees. And heels. And bend the knees. And heels. And bend the knees. And heels. And bend the knees. And heels. That's it. And bend the knees. And heels, exactly. What's it like to sit and stand without that jumpiness?
It's nice, it's quite supportive.
Supportive, yes, it's nice. What's nice about this moving without the jerk?
It doesn't feel like difficult at all.
Yeah, there's an ease to it that's maintained throughout the movement. Yeah, bend the knees.
Yeah, it's kind of more like one movement than...
That's a great description. That's a really good description. It's like one movement rather than 3 or 4.
Yeah.
It's not disjointed. It's continuous. You could say it's like a continuous flow of energy, of movement, rather than broken up. Heels and bend the knees. heels. So would I be right in saying that a good performance would also have a continuous flow rather than being broken up in the middle? Would that make sense in the music world?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to move your head again. You can look up at the ceiling, you can look at the floor, and the head can go anywhere it wants. There's no right position for the head. Yeah. Now I want you to go up onto the tip of your toes. Yeah. And down to the heels. And onto the tip of your toes, yes. And down to the heels, stop. Okay, now take the hips gently backwards and bend the knees and reach the chair and don't move. And then stand up with the heels. Yes, bend the knees. Heels. Knees. Heels. And knees. And the other observations coming in, so comparing yourself to the state you were when you walked through the door to the mind-body state you're in now after we've worked a little bit, are there any things that pop in to your attention?
My body feels very relaxed.
Your body feels relaxed.
Yeah. And my mind as well.
Right. So you've said something very interesting as well just now, the body and the mind.
Yeah.
So in Alexander we'd probably see the two things as very much the same thing.
Yeah.
Different ways of describing the same organism, but from different perspectives.
Yeah.
So when the mind is relaxed, the body is going to be pretty relaxed too. It's going to be simultaneous or identical.
Yeah.
So as you were saying before, if there was an overwhelming amount of performance anxiety, you'd find yourself not just disturbed up here, but you'd be pulling up in your breath, you'd be pinching the back, you'd be very ungrounded, and your performance would suffer.
Sure.
All of that pull up.
Yeah.
But when you're in this condition, you're free and you're long and you're kindly paying attention to yourself, you're mindful, and relaxed mind and body, your performance will be at a higher level.
Yeah.
You see that combination?
Yeah.
Good. So the job of an Alexander lesson is to help you navigate or recalibrate back to this condition and for it to be more available in everyday activities and in particular, of course, for a musician in performance. Because you're not going to have the Alexander teacher's hands on you in the middle of a performance. But the purpose of lessons is for you to learn how to recover this natural but sometimes quite rare condition. Yep, so I'm going to move you forwards, or maybe even to the sides. And you've maintained this long and free business, haven't you? You're free and long here, and relaxed here, and you're paying attention. You're engaged, but not in an effortful way. That's it. I'll move you back again. And I'll move you forwards. and then stand up with the heels. After a few sessions, I'd probably say to you, if you're an ongoing pupil, I'd say bring in your clarinet and do some difficult pieces. And I would hopefully help you recover this relaxation and freedom and openness and poise in the middle of you playing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, take the hips back and bend the knees and stop. And then stand up with the heels and then bend the knees and stop. And heels and bend the knees. And heels and then bend the knees. Heels and knees. Knees and heels. So what part of you is getting you in and out of a chair right now?
Yes.
Yeah, and what isn't working at all? What isn't engaging? Have a guess. What isn't doing too much effort? Yeah, the whole of the back is staying out of the picture. It's staying long, free, undisturbed by the action of your legs. In the same way that your breath, your neck, your back would stay undisturbed when you're playing the clarinet, rather than overly engaged. Your mind and body would be able to remain in this calm state of engagement with all the dramas going on that are necessary for performance.
Yeah.
Any questions popping in?
No, don't think so.
Pretty easy, isn't it? Okay, I'll take you further forwards and then stop. And again, I'm going to stop you jumping and stand up with the heels. Perfect. Then walk to the bench and back. Yep. Good. I think we'll do some table work. It's the same thing as we were doing before, with a little difference, that I'm still going to move you, and I'm responsible for the weight right now of your head. And now I'm going to lift up a leg, and as far as you're able, you don't have to help me. So this work on the table reinforces the work we've been doing, which is helping you navigate back to a condition of ease, of freedom, of being engaged, being alert, being alive, being relaxed, being longer and more expansive, and all the things that you mentioned, certainly as you're lying down. And this ability then translates much more into more demanding things like sitting, standing, walking, playing, where the stakes are a bit higher.
Sure.
So right now, what do you think is working on you, even if I wasn't here? What force of nature?
Gravity.
Gravity, yes. So gravity is working, and it takes you in the direction of the center of the earth. So even if my hands weren't here, there'd be a a downward pressure on every single part of your body. There. And so if you are ungrounded or pulling away from gravity, which we do when we get stressed out, gravity is a support, a universal support. It's in the universe, it exists. And it supports you recovering, coming back home, coming down. So too much adrenaline and worry and hurry pulls us away from gravity. And that all can subside and drop down again. And you can sense that in your brain, can't you? Yeah. It's a different experience. So you haven't got stage fright from the audience here? No. I do. Yeah, so stage fright is a real thing, isn't it? You know, if you see the eyes of the audience on you when you have to perform your thing, obviously you know you're not performing today, but it's a real thing, and it can stress people out.
Definitely.
So I've had to get used to performing and learn how to not react to the stresses, the demands of performance in the same way that you do. So in Alexander, it's not so much that you don't feel the demands of the performance, I'm sure you do. It's that your nervous system can learn not to freak out about them, not to react. But the experience is still there. But the nervous system doesn't get overwhelmed. And that's what you learn in the Alexander technique. It's not that you don't register the demands of an activity or a performance or a stressful situation. It's not like, oh, it's nothing. But you learn, Alexander called it, he had a funny word, he called it inhibition. But actually it's simply the ability not to be overwhelmed in the brain and the body. Not to flight and fight into an emergency or freeze in terror. And that's learnable, because you're born with it. It often needs a little bit of extra exercise. A bit like patience, you know. You have to exercise it. And it gets stronger, like a muscle. So the muscle of non-reaction develops through practice. And an Alexander lesson is practicing and exercising the muscle of non-reaction. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So is anything happening in the mind and body as you're lying down that you're becoming a bit more aware of?
My breathing.
Yeah, I was noticing that. So what did you notice about your breathing as you're lying here?
Just that it's happening.
Yeah, it's happening. And that you're not interfering with it.
No, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That your breathing is happening. You notice that your breathing is just normalizing. It's regulating itself. And it's not disturbed.
Yeah.
And you notice that. The reason you noticed it is because it's not always in that condition. You probably sometimes notice, after you've been a bit disturbed, that you were holding your breath. Do you ever notice that?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, here's the interesting thing. I'm not teaching you how to breathe. So what do you think is happening in this process? How come you're just noticing now, as a contrast, my breathing's very rhythmical and quiet and calm and undisturbed. Who taught you to breathe like that? Because I haven't mentioned breathing. So what does that prove to you?
I can do it anyway.
You can do it anyway, that you're born with it, that it's natural, and that what we're doing, Alexander, isn't to teach you clever things, because I don't know anything clever. What I do know is that you've got everything you need inside of you, and that my job is to help you liberate it, rather than teach it to you.
Sure.
So even though it's a bit stupid really, but we call ourselves Alexander teachers, but we don't have anything to teach you.
Yeah.
That's the secret. I have to find another name apart from Alexander teachers to be really accurate, because we're not teaching you something. We're not teaching you information. We're not teaching you how the breath works. We're not teaching you how your hips free up and how to be long in your spine. I haven't taught you anything about your anatomy or your diaphragm, have I? Nothing. But it's all happening. So that proves to you that you know it all. Everything. You know everything. You're not here to learn anything. You're here to develop capacities, your little muscle of non-reaction, sure. But all the other things you know. And some things you need to practice. But the knowledge, you know everything you need to know because you're born with it. And we've got to help you recover the state where it operates rather than gets disturbed. So if anything, this is an unlearning exercise. You're unlearning the reactions that prevent you manifesting all this nice stuff. What am I doing here? I'm not correcting your shoulders. I'm saying hello to gravity. You can see I'm not pulling your shoulders out or in or manipulating anything. This isn't manipulation. I'm affirming the existence of a real universal force called gravity. 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 Yeah. And you're going along with that and saying yes to gravity, rather than no to gravity. It's a bit of a losing battle, really. Gravity will always win eventually, so you can fight it for a while, you'll just get exhausted. Okay. Any other questions coming in, or thoughts, or feedback?
Not really. Just that I'm focusing on exactly what's happening in my body, I guess.
Yes. What's your body telling you in contrast to what it would normally tell you? What is coming into relief?
That I'm just aware of.
You're just aware, yeah, of anything in particular?
Just feeling quite balanced.
Yeah. So that's another contrast. So when we have an experience, it's usually a contrast experience.
Yeah.
So if you're suddenly feeling cold, it's because you weren't cold beforehand.
Yeah.
So when you feel the balance, it means you weren't so balanced beforehand.
Yeah.
So it's telling you something about your normal condition and what you potentially can have as an experience.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned lots of words: free, long, relaxed, balanced, mindful or engaged. All of these things that are popping into your experience because they're not always there.
Yeah.
And that's why you're saying to me you're attending to those things, because they're coming up into the story, coming up into your awareness, into your attention as slightly novel experiences. Obviously, I didn't ask you to feel balance, but you spontaneously feel whatever comes into experience.
Yeah.
Now, after a while of getting used to this condition that can sustain itself, become more of a constant condition, you'll habituate to it and you probably won't feel balance and feel long, you'll just feel you.
Yeah.
And then something dramatic comes along and freaks you out a little bit, and then you'll feel the other stuff.
Yeah.
Well, now I feel short, now I feel narrow, now I feel my heart pumping, now I feel pulled up. Because this will be your dominant condition and the other thing will be your exceptional condition. So feelings then change. Contrasts change depending on where you are for more of the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm going to get you off the table in a minute. Same idea as always. I'm going to guide you and to help you do these movements with a little bit more ease and less of an overwhelming reaction of emergency, push, pull, performance, all of the rest, all the dramas that would normally accompany even simple movements like sitting, standing. So I'm going to, in a minute, guide you. You'll be rolling over to your left-hand side. Your legs will come over the side, and I will get you sitting on the side of the table. Then you'll walk around to the stool. But I'll support your head, and you do the rolling. So you roll onto your left. Perfect. Keep on rolling. Yes, all the way. Yeah. And then help yourself with your hands off the table. And then I'm going to guide you. And you can come over and sit in your chair, turn around, look out the window. Yeah, feet a bit wider. That's fine. Yes, hips back and bend the knees. That'll be fine. And then wait there for a while. Yeah, and then there's nothing for you to do. And I'll sit here and say thank you for volunteering.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anything you want to share? Anything you want to say about that experience?
It was just great, very relaxing, and I'm not tired either.
Did you expect to be tired?
Or
Or were you tired when you came in?
Yeah, both.
That's interesting. So you're not tired now, but you were tired when you came in. So there's something enlivening when things work well.
Yeah.
And maybe when you came in, you were wasting energy, and now you're gathering energy.
Yeah.
You're accumulating energy.
Yeah.
So you get more vitality rather than diminishing vitality. That's an interesting observation. Great. Well, that's a good place to leave it. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll let you go. All the best. Bye for now. The claps are for you.
Thank you.